We are going live stream. Just take 2 minutes. Live stream. Welcome one and all. Today we have the fourth day session, afternoon session of the fourth day on this webinar series, 5-day webinar series titled Vishwa Guru Bharatha, the glory of traditional Indian sciences and technologies. For this series, we had a number of eminent speakers and one extraordinary personality who has dedicated his life for promotion of Indian sciences and technologies, Indian traditions and culture and values. He is Shri Rajiv Malhotra. Rajiv Malhotra, being in US, he has a huge network of people doing an extraordinary work in the area of traditional Indian sciences and technologies. He has come out with marvelous books in the area of traditional science and technologies. Perhaps such a kind of work sitting in US is something which is magnanimous. In fact, his foundation is the Infinity Foundation. So he believes that knowledge is almost next to infinity. Indian knowledge, science and technological knowledge is almost infinity, and hence they have kept this name of their organization as Infinity Foundation. Infinity Foundation. So we had initially contacted Rajiv Malhotra ji for delivering a talk. We had interacted with him as well as his representatives, and he had agreed to deliver the talk. But last moment, because because he was quite busy with some literature, some book which he is releasing on Sanskrit non-translatables. So that book he is about to release, and finally he thought he would not be able to manage coming to us and delivering a talk. In fact, we wanted more time. Hence, the mistake is from our side. We requested for a bit longer time, and hence he thought instead of doing small talks, he has promised us that later he will join us and discuss with us and have an exclusive talk on his activities and the various sciences and technologies of India. So hence we were given the contacts of India office of the Infinity Foundation. That's how we have two experts from the India branch, which is based at Chennai of the Infinity Foundation, and we have the one Mrs. Shalini, basically the general manager of the Infinity Foundation of a particular division, and more important is that she is an alumnus of MSRIT. So it is really proud that alumnus of MSRIT have gone to that level of becoming having high positions in the Infinity Foundation, an internationally renowned organization. When I said to some of my friends that in this program we have also contacting. We'll also have Rajiv Malhotra in the program. Their appreciations was something which I could not believe. So people know, people have heard of Rajiv Malhotra and his activities, and um, even Shalini was also motivated by the activities of Rajiv Malhotra's Infinity Foundation, and she, after 18 years of her working career in various other fields, she thought that's enough. Now I'll jump into these kinds of activities, spreading a larger knowledge base to the globe. So she was actually inducted as a trustee when Infinity Foundation India was formally incorporated in the year 2016, and since then she has been working as operations head of Infinity Foundation India. She has a keen interest in the Indian civilization and its philosophical traditions, which is a beautiful blend of esoteric and pragmatic. So she will be with us in the first session. We have actually two sessions today. First session is jointly handled by Shalini and her colleague Anurag. And the second session will be handled by Hemanth. I'll be introducing to him later on. So Anurag, who will be jointly presenting the talk representing the Infinity Foundation, holds a BTech degree in Metallurgical and Material Science from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and also master's degree in Process Engineering from the same institute, IIT Bombay. After completing his education, he worked as research scientist in Bharat Petroleum and the intellectual property firm Zacco. Later, he took a break from his career as a scientist because he was, again, as I told you, many people are inspired by Rajiv Malhotra's activities, and one such person is also Anurag, who, inspired by Rajiv Malhotra's work, deeply started studying Indian philosophy and culture. This culminated in his joining the family of Infinity Foundation as a research scholar, where he has been working there for past 1.5 years or 2 years in various projects, including public republication of History of Indian Science and Technology series. And he is also a part of the Sanskrit non-translatables, that book which Shri Rajiv Malhotra is coming out with. His area of interest is in the Indian philosophy includes Vedanta from theist perspective. Besides this, he is also an eminent. He is very much interested in researching ancient Indian knowledge systems and their contributions to the modern world. He is a very apt personality for our topic over here. He will be talking on zinc metallurgy. There is an exclusively published book on zinc metallurgy of India. So that is published by Infinity Foundation. So he'll be talking about being a metallurgist, and process engineer from IIT Bombay, engineering graduate from IIT Bombay. I'm sure he understands much better the marvelous wonder of the zinc metallurgy. So he'll be talking about this. So before I just hand over, I just also tell you one small point on this Sanskrit non-translatables. Incidentally, yesterday I had this talk on one aspect of Sanskrit non-translatables, which is the difference between grahas and planets. The planets, so grahas cannot be translated as planets. That is the English translation. It has created a lot of blunder. It has created a lot of blunder. Surya is not sun, then Chandra is not moon. So I have explained that in detail in yesterday's talk. It is also available on YouTube. Perhaps this would be an addition to, if at all it is not taught by the Infinity Foundation team, that could be taken up. So that this is a brief introduction to the speakers today. Now I request Shalini, a civil engineer, earlier civil engineer in our Purvashram, I can say, a graduate from alumnus of MS Ramaiah Institute of Technology, to take over.
Can I start? Namaste to everyone. As Professor Harichandra said, I am Shalini, and I first of all let me say thank you to him for inviting us to this Vishwa Guru Bharatha series. I'm joined by my colleague Anurag Sharma, who will take up after me. And as Professor said, he will be talking about the zinc technology of ancient India. Now, before I get into anything about infinity, I think I just have to say that, it's a very, very special moment for me, because never did I think that I will be addressing people from my alma mater at any point in my life after my engineering course. So I belong to the 95 batch civil engineering department, and I don't know if any of my friends or peers or teachers are watching this. In case any of you are, big hello. And it is a very nostalgic moment, from the time I heard about MSRIT conducting this webinar. I've been so thrilled and very, very, very surprised and happily surprised to see, this kind of thing happening in my alma mater. So that's to start with. And I think Professor Harichandra said that when he mentioned that Rajiv ji will be coming to speak, there were a lot of people who were very thrilled with the idea. I'm sorry that we are sort of disappointing them that we are standing in for Rajiv Malhotra. But for those who don't know him, I'd like to give a brief introduction to Rajiv ji.
Definitely.
Rajiv ji, born and brought up in India, and until his graduation, he was here. For his post-graduation, he went to the US in the 70s to do his post-graduation in physics and also later in computer science. So this was at a time, I think, when most of us hadn't heard the word computers, So today it is so ubiquitous, but then it was not. So then he had a very stellar corporate life for about 2 decades, and then gave up everything in 1994 to pursue his study and analysis and research into Indian civilization, and particularly he is interested in cross-civilizational encounters. So throughout his life, he has been someone who's a keen observer of people, of civilizations, of how civilizations impact people's behavior and their transactions and their entire worldview. So he has been a very keen observer of these, and while actually coming from an Indian perspective all through, and therefore he has been able to sort of compare civilizations, their trajectories, their worldviews, and this has culminated into many books. I think there is not even one which is not a bestseller. He's the author of best-selling books like Breaking India, Being Different, Indra's Net, The Battle for Sanskrit, Academic Hinduphobia, and he was also the prime mover and motivator for the anthology of essays in the first book called Invading the Sacred. So I think every one of his books have been a bestseller, and I think the biggest one of them has been Breaking India, which is into its 19th reprint edition currently. So it's a book that just doesn't seem to slack off. So this is, currently, I would like to sort of just mildly, add to what Professor Harichandra said. He's not only doing the Sanskrit non-translatables, he's also into another book, which is technology oriented, which is coming out at the end of this year and would be of great interest to most of you being technologists. So per se, it's not a technology book, but it deals with what technology can do in the coming years and the decades, and how it will impact society and civilization. So that's something that you can look forward to. Apart from this, of course, as he said, the Sanskrit non-translatables is the other book that will be coming out soon. And my colleague Anurag, who will speak next, has a very key role to play in that book too, along with some other very special scholars that we have. So this is a little bit about Rajivji. Now, if I were to go into why the Hist series came about, I would say there were two major reasons. One is that the story of India is told as a story of invasions. So it's like India progressed every time somebody invaded her. So, and otherwise she and her people had no agency. So that is a theory of invasions of India. And according to this theory, so it is the Aryans who came from wherever they came, which is a figment of imagination of most people. And they gave us, but of course it has found its deep roots into our narrative. So the Aryans gave us Sanskrit and the Vedas. Then it was followed, by a whole lot of infighting about amongst the Indians who did not know how to govern themselves, a very poor government. Then followed by the Turks and the Mughals, who probably gave us the Taj Mahal and the Mughlai cuisine. And then followed by the British, who gave us the railways, cricket, the language English, in which we are conversing now, and perhaps rationality, because of course we weren't rational people at all until then. And then today's theory of invasion is invasion in a metaphorical sense. It's not a physical invasion, but the pervasive influence of American culture in India seems to state that probably India is progressing to human rights because the Americans are giving us human rights. Well, these are really not my words. I'm actually just saying whatever Rajivji has said before. And I think for a fantastic explanation of this, one should go to YouTube and search with the words Rajiv Malhotra and Suhail Seth, and you will come across a very small clip, less than 2-minute clip, where he and Suhail Seth have this confrontation at one of the editions of the Jaipur Lit Fest. So, well, this is one reason for why Infinity Foundation felt that it's not correct that India is not all about invasions, and we had many achievements to our credit, and that was one of the motivations for Hist. The other motivation was that Joseph Needham compiled about more than 25 volumes for the Chinese on their traditional science and civilization. Now, in India, no one had bothered to do that. And well, Joseph Needham is not even a Chinese. So not even a Chinese person doing it for the Chinese, somebody else doing it, a sinologist. So that was another trigger point which made Infinity Foundation and Rajiv Malhotra think that, if Joseph Needham can do 25 plus volumes for China, we can at least do 20 volumes for India. So, well, we have not reached 20 volumes. So far, we have 14 volumes of the history of Indian science and technology. But this was the second motivation for the Hist series. Now, the project started off in the year 2000, and I think until 2011 or 12, these 14 volumes were compiled. And these volumes are very, very deeply researched, I would say. And there was no way that there were some ground rules that were laid down for the Hist series. It was that, one was that every paper for the Hist series would be peer reviewed. And the second was that no theory, unless it was backed up by empirical evidence, was going to get a place in any of our books. So all the volumes of the Hist series have content that have been empirically validated. Just because of a textual reference or a literary reference, something could not get into a Hist book. So these were two very, very important ground rules that were laid. And the result, I think, is there for all to see, because the Hist volumes are extensively researched and, I must say, very beautifully done. Though unfortunately, I must say that they are out of print for a while now, but we are in the process of republishing them, at least as ebooks, since that looks like the way forward. So we are in the process of republishing them as ebooks, and they will be available soon. So that is the story of the 14 volumes of Hist. And now that being done, now I shall go on to my, what are the Infinity projects, and what is the scope for collaborations and the opportunities at Infinity. So the Hist series itself, we are also planning to start a series of webinars with the authors of the Hist series soon. So I will keep Professor Harichandra informed of this, and anybody who's interested amongst you can then join us when we start this series.
Sure.
Okay, so that is one of the things. So we are planning at some point of time to also hold a Hist conference. So many of you, I'm sure, will be able to write papers in for these Hist conferences. So that's another way that you can be associated with us. Now, with the 2 books that will be coming out by the end of this year, we will also have conferences on those themes. And one of them, of course, is the Sanskrit non-translatables. This book, Professor Harichandra's, to answer him, does not deal with the technology terms. It deals more with the philosophical, metaphysical, practical, dharmic lifestyle, and words which are commonly translated into English, which do not capture their true essence. These are taken up in this SNT book that will be out. But the conference that is to follow, of course, will have domain-specific themes. So surely we can have a technology stream in that. And Professor Harichandra, your talk yesterday on grahas and planets, those can be definitely part of that stream. So this is one more thing that we will, there is a scope for collaboration. Then we have Rajivji's most popular, best-selling, always moving book is Breaking India. So we have created an e-learning course of Breaking India, and this has been done in collaboration with Indus University from Ahmedabad, and it is up on their site. So it would be great if you all can go and take that course. And if you need any help with credentials, logging in, any questions, please write to us at infinityfoundationindia@gmail.com. So while we have started this e-learning course, we also want to start our own e-learning courses. So we would be more than happy for any help to help us start e-learning courses on other books of Rajivji, which are all amenable to e-learning, because they are all full of, what shall I say, educative facts, you know, so which will definitely expand the learning and knowledge of anybody who takes it up. So we are very keen that people with e-learning expertise can come and help us. So that's another area of collaboration. Then I don't know if some of you know, we of course have our own YouTube channels. We have two of them. One is the primary channel is Rajiv Malhotra Official, and just recently we have started another YouTube channel, Intellectual Kshatriya. So the Rajiv Malhotra Official carries, I mean, it has, I think it has probably now about 1,200 plus videos, and they cover a whole range of subjects and topics. And the Intellectual Kshatriya channel is, of course, is really fledgling and just started up. We are just trying to expand. And this is more from an organizational perspective, like taking Rajivji's work and making it more more expanded and accessible to the public. So that's our two channels. And one of the constant requests that we get is that these videos should be up in different languages, different regional languages. You know, they should be dubbed into regional languages. Now, we understand that need and recognize its importance, but as an organization, we are really small and do not have the wherewithal to do all that. So we would be very happy if we could have volunteers help us with the translation and dubbing into regional languages. So this is another area of collaboration and association. We have a website called intellectualkshatriya.com, which is open to public. Anyone can write for us, but there are certain guidelines, of course, that we send to anybody who wants to write for us. And if their article passes those guidelines, it will be published on our website. So that's another way for you to associate with us. And frankly, there is no limit, or you know, there is no narrow definition of what can be written upon. Any domain, anything is open, but of course it has to follow certain guidelines. That's the only thing. Then another area where we would definitely like help is building an app for Infinity Foundation, so that people on the go will be updated on our activities. And you know, that is something where we would certainly like if someone can help us. And I think this is one of the main areas where we would like definitely, and I think which many of you would be able to help, is to help network with academic institutions to get the large corpus of work that we have done into mainstream academia. I mean, I'm really thrilled that MSRIT has adopted 2 books from the Hist series as part of its syllabus for the open
elective subject.
Open electives, yes. Yes, so the 2 books from our Hist series, I'm really thrilled on that count. So we would definitely like it if people like you can help us network with other academic institutions and help us place our work. I mean, we have conducted 6 conferences called Swadeshi Indology Conference conference series till now, and we have generated pretty considerable amount of literature, proceedings volumes from these conferences. Well, they're not all technological or technical. They are on different aspects of civilization, and but it is all suffused with the Indian drishti, so to speak. So Bharatiya drishti. So we would be very, very happy if you could help us network with other academic institutions. That's a big area where we would appreciate any help. Apart from this, we obviously need to make ourselves visible. So we have a lot of social media marketing. So we could do with any help that people can give for preparing social media posts or doing video editing, clipping videos, such kind of activity. So these are some of the areas where I think people can help us, and I think that's about all to cover what opportunities and scope for collaborations exist. So before I end, I just also want to clarify one thing. Many people ask us, give us your office address. We would like to come and visit you. So I would just say that we have always been COVID adapted. So what I mean by that is that most of you may be only now getting used to the whole the whole business of online classes, online meetings, conferences, all that. But Infinity Foundation has always been COVID adapted. We have always been online. We have always been a virtual office, and we are a group of people scattered around India and in the US who are all working from our homes. So we don't have a brick and mortar institutional building, and the internet space, the virtual space, is our institutional space. So that's one thing. So while we don't have a brick and mortar institution, any of you are most welcome to visit us in our homes. But please do let us know before you come. That's all. So that's all I think I would like to say about Infinity. And now I think I will pass on the baton to my colleague Anurag Sharma, and he will take up from where I'm leaving. So thank you, Professor. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I also would like to, extend my heartfelt, congratulations to all those who are working to make this happen. It's not a small thing to do a 5 or 6 day conference like this every day. So congrats to all of them who are also working on this. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Okay, so am I audible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Shalini, and namaste to all the learned audience present here. And first of all, I would like to thank all the organizers and Professor Harichandra ji for inviting us to this webinar series and to make us present our ideas. And it is indeed a pleasure to be a part of this webinar series. So let me just share my screen. So it is saying host disabled participant screen share.
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, now you'll be able to. You can do it now, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Harichandra ji. Yeah, just a minute. Okay, so is my screen visible now?
Yeah, sure. Very nice.
Okay. Okay, so as you have already been briefed by Shalini ji about the Hist series, so the topic of my presentation is the wonder that was zinc metallurgy of India. So So our country Bharat is quite well known as far as its religious and philosophical traditions are concerned. But sadly, not many people are aware of the scientific and technological traditions of our country. So this is really important, not only for the sake of self glorification, but also if we get to know about these ancient technologies, we sort of get a feel about how people used to think in the earlier times. And this kind of makes us think out of the box, and it helps us in our future research also. So this is really important from both these point of views. So in this presentation, my purpose would be to show how India pioneered the smelting and distillation techniques for the production of zinc in ancient times, and how this technology was used to produce zinc even up to quite recent times. So this would be the purpose of my presentation. So yeah, so as you have already been briefed, this is one of the books from the Hist series, and this would be the source book for my presentation, Indian Zinc Technology in a Global Perspective by Dr. J.S. Khadagwal, and this was published under the Hist series. Okay. So before going into the technicalities of zinc production, I'll just although most of the people would be aware of about these things. So these are some of the properties of zinc metal. So the point to be noted is that zinc has a low melting point and low boiling point. Low in the sense when we compare it with other metals. So this is important to keep this in mind as we go ahead, because this would be used in our presentation later. So these are some of the properties of zinc. It has a HCP structure, and its atomic number is 30, and it's a transition metal. So these are some of the properties of zinc metal. Now, why is zinc important? Why are we discussing zinc? What is the importance of zinc? So in the modern world, zinc is used mostly for the purpose of galvanization. And galvanization, as most of you would be aware, is the process of dipping the iron sheets into zinc, into molten zinc, coating the zinc iron sheets with zinc so that it doesn't get corroded or rusted. So this is a very important use of zinc in the present times, galvanization. It checks corrosion and enhances the resistance to rusting in iron and also in other metals also. Now, this is again, zinc is primarily used for producing alloys like brass. So this alloy brass is important, as we'll see later on in the presentation. And zinc is used as the anode material. It has a very high, not very high, but it has a high oxidation potential. So it is used as anode in the batteries. And it is also used for medicinal and agricultural purposes. So zinc is really an important metal as far as our modern civilization is concerned. Okay. Now coming to the uses of zinc in ancient India. So what exactly was zinc used in ancient India? Because all of these things which I have listed are purely modern. So except for alloying. So in ancient India, one of the major uses of zinc was for the production of brass. Brass was a metal which was used for creating the idols in temples, and also for household utensils. It was quite popular up to 30-40 years back, but now most of the utensils are of steel. So, and one of the very important uses of zinc in ancient India was in Ayurveda. So these texts like Charak Samhita and Sushruta Samhita, they talk about various uses of zinc for medicinal purposes, and it was mainly used for healing wounds and also for curing sore eyes. So there is one recipe mentioned in these texts, Charak Samhita and Sushruta Samhita, and it's called Pushpanjan, which was used which was prepared with zinc by heating zinc, and it was used for curing sour ice. So this is just one of the examples, but zinc was used for, it was pretty common to use zinc for medicinal purposes. There was a whole shastra, in ancient India called Rasa Shastra, and many of these recipes are mentioned, in these texts also. So, okay. Now, why was pure zinc a latecomer in metallurgy? So, based on the current evidence which we have, the archaeological evidence, we find that zinc is a latecomer in metallurgy, because if you look at other metals like copper, iron, gold, so Harappans were aware of copper. So brass artifacts have been discovered, and copper artifacts have been discovered in Rajasthan, and they date to about 4th millennium BC. Similarly, if you take the case of iron, iron was used in India from about the later half of the 2nd millennium BC. So, and many iron artifacts have also been found in the Ganga Valley. So, compared to these metals, and of course, gold was also a very popular metal in the ancient world. But as far as zinc is concerned, it was a very latecomer, I would say, in metallurgy. So the reason for this was that zinc is not an easy metal to extract. Why so? Because zinc has a boiling point of 907 degrees Celsius, as we saw earlier while taking a look at the properties. But the reduction temperature required for when you take an ore of zinc, suppose zinc oxide. So the reduction temperature at which zinc oxide gets reduced to zinc metal is around 1000 degrees Celsius. So what is the problem? At the reduction temperature, zinc vaporizes. And these zinc vapors are very reactive. They get again oxidized to zinc oxide. So even if you do the reduction of zinc successfully, you won't be able to collect recover zinc, because the zinc vapors would again get oxidized to zinc oxide. So this is one of the reasons why due to the difficulty in extraction of zinc, it was a latecomer in metallurgy. So zinc ore, it requires a controlled heating in a controlled manner, and then quickly condensing these zinc vapors before they get reoxidized. So this was the reason that we don't find zinc artifacts belonging to such ancient times. Although one of the reasons could also be that most of that zinc has got oxidized to zinc oxide. But this is also the reason that zinc was not an easy metal to produce. And this is where the genius of Indian metallurgical tradition lies. Now, centers of zinc production in the old world. In the old world, India and China have been generally identified as the regular centers of zinc production. And as far as the rest of the world is concerned, we are pretty sure about Europe that zinc metal was something exotic in Europe up to 18th century, and it was generally obtained from India and also from China later on by the Europeans. And we will later on see that whether it was India or whether it was China, who was the first in coming up with these metallurgical process for the extraction of zinc. We would see who is the leader in this, who is the pioneer in this. Okay, so before going into zinc, let's take a look at its precursor, brass, because the reason being that you find a lot of brass artifacts from the ancient world. You don't have zinc articles, but you have artifacts, articles, various things made of brass in the ancient world. So brass, as you know, is an alloy of copper and zinc, and it has, as I've already said, it has a much longer history than pure zinc. Now, brass can be produced both accidentally and deliberately. Now, what do I mean when I say that brass can be produced accidentally? So by that I mean that this zinc oxide is always an impurity in copper ores. So when you are reducing copper oxide and producing copper, some of this zinc also zinc oxide also gets reduced, and it mixes up with the copper to form brass. So this is the reason, this in situ production of brass is the reason that, people were aware of brass, but they were not aware that, these properties of brass are due to another metal called zinc. This was something unknown to people in the ancient times. So by this accidental production of brass, we can get up to 4% by weight of zinc in brass. So I will come to the point why this is important. So this is another process, the cementation process, which was used in ancient times. And one of the ancient Indian texts by an author called Nagarjuna, a Buddhist author, it mentions about the cementation process. Probably the text belonged to 7th century, so that was 1300 years back. So in this cementation process, the ore, the zinc, the ore is mixed with charcoal. The zinc ore, by ore I mean the zinc ore is mixed with charcoal and placed in a crucible together with finely divided copper metal. So this is also a method for producing brass. So what you do is you take copper and you take zinc oxide and you take charcoal, you mix them, and then you heat them to 1000 degrees Celsius. So that zinc vapor, before it gets reoxidized, it is absorbed into copper. So this process was also used in the production of brass. Now, why this cementation process is important, that this process can also introduce only up to 28% by weight of zinc into copper. So that's the maximum amount of zinc that can be introduced through these processes, through these in situ processes, or what I have said as the accidental production of brass. So by accidental, in this method of accidental production, you can only introduce up to 28% of zinc in the finally produced brass. So why is this important? Okay, so this is a text by Nagarjuna called Ras Ratnaka, as I have already said. So this mentions about the cementation process for producing brass. Now, what is the significance of this cementation process? Now, as we have seen that, the maximum amount of zinc that can be introduced into brass is 28% through the cementation process. Now, if we discover any ancient artifact which has more than 28% by weight of zinc, then it would not be unreasonable to infer that this brass was not produced by any accidental process, but it was produced by taking pure zinc and pure copper, melting them, and then mixing them. So if the percentage of zinc is more than 28% in brass, then that means that people who produced that brass were aware of zinc as a distinct metal. So as we have seen, so this archaeologist, John Marshall, he carried out excavations at Takshila. Takshila was an important center of learning and also a political center in the ancient times, in around 3rd century BC. So one of the vases discovered at Takshila, it has up to 34.34% of zinc. So if this brass is having 34% of zinc, that it would not be wrong that even up to 2,300 years back, metallurgists in India were aware of distinct metal called zinc. And this is not a trivial thing, because in Europe, even up to 16th, 17th century, people used to wonder what this metal is. So this is something very important, that Indians were aware of this metal as far as 2,300 years back. And this is not some one random article. Okay, before I go to another article, this is this is again from that zinc technology book, which is my source book for the presentation. So if you see this table, this first entry, the vase BM 15284, belonging to the period of 3rd to 2nd century BC, and if you look at the percent of zinc, it is 34.3%. So it is 34.3% zinc. Now, this is not just one random article on the basis of which we are claiming that we knew zinc 2,300 years back. There are many other articles which have been discovered which have more than 28% by weight of zinc in the brass. So again, a bangle, it discovered, which is also more than 2,000 years old, and it was discovered in the Ganga Valley in a place called Senuvar. And if you look at this table, this first article, 30, Bangle 745, this is some archaeological way of naming the articles. So that's not important, but the important thing for us is that the percentage of zinc is 35.52% in this brass bangle. So again, this kind of confirms our theory that people in India were aware of zinc metal as far as 2000 years back. Okay. So as I've already said that Indians knew about zinc since ancient times, and there is one text called Rasarnavam Rastantram, and it is an important Indian alchemical text. And again, there is a dispute. Some scholars say that it belongs to the 5th 500 to 100 BC. Some say it belongs to because it is a tantric text. So some people believe that it belongs to 10th century AD, because that is what the date of tantra literature according to the modern historians. So this text deals with the preparation and purification of metals, and it records different kinds of zinc ores, and it also talks about the purification of zinc metal. So even if this text doesn't belong to 5th century BC, although it is a very good possibility, even if we take it to be belonging to the first millennium AD, then it is quite sure we can be sure that zinc was known to India in the first millennium AD. Again, this is another text by Abhav Mishra, and it also talks about, it clearly says, this is remarkable, it clearly says that brass is an alloy, and he uses the term upadhatu for alloy. So brass is an alloy of zinc and copper. It is very clearly mentioned in this text from 16th century. So that is again more than 200 years before Europe was aware of zinc metal. Okay, so coming to the zinc production sites in ancient India. So these three were there might be more sites, but based on the current archaeological evidence, we have these three sites: Zawar, Agucha, and Dariba, and all of them are in southeastern Rajasthan, near Udaipur, and in the erstwhile Mewar kingdom. So this Zawar is now in the Udaipur district, Agucha is in the, I think, Bhilwara district, and Dariba is again in Rajasthan district. So all of these are part of the southern stretches of the Aravalli Mountains. So this Zawar was the most important ancient site where all this technology for zinc production developed, and it was a very important trade center also in ancient times. And there are a lot of Jain temples around the zinc smelting sites. So based on that, we can conclude that probably the Jain community was involved in the business of zinc production during that time. Okay. So as this is the most important site which we are going to talk about, all the technology related to zinc, all the distillation and smelting techniques, all of them developed in Zawar. So this is, as I've already said, it is located in southeastern Rajasthan. It is a part of the Aravalli region. And the important thing is that it is not only the most ancient zinc smelting site in India, but it is also the oldest evidence for industrial production of zinc anywhere in the world. So that is very remarkable as far as zinc technology is concerned, because for other metals you could find evidences in other countries also, but like iron, for example. But for zinc, it is exclusively Indians who developed all the distillation and the smelting techniques. So this is something remarkable. Now, of course, this region is rich in lead and zinc ores, And this text by Abul Fazl Aini Akbari, it is the, it gives literary evidence for the production of zinc. Now, zinc was called Ruh-i-Tutia, an extract of Tutia. Ruh means kind of, soul, Atma. So soul of a metal ore is actually its, metal content. So it was produced in this part of the country, and this text Aini Akbari calls zinc as Ruh-i-Tutia. So this is just one of the views of Zawar. Okay, if anyone of you would like to visit. Okay, so now the researchers. So since these were the people who discovered all these smelting and distillation techniques, which I'm going to talk about shortly. So P.D. Craddock and of the British Museum, and this KTM Hegde of the MS University Baroda, they initiated this archaeometallurgical study at Zawar along with Hindustan Zinc in 1983. So this people were not aware of this kind of zinc technology existed in India up to 1983. So these were the people who discovered, who carried out research and discovered the zinc production at Zawar. So what did these researchers discover? So this team reported extensive use of wood for roof support, ladderways for the in the underground mines, and these have been dated to 4th century BC. So again, we have another evidence apart from the evidence of brass, which was kind of an inference. We have evidence that these underground mines have been dated to 4th century BC. Now, unless you have some use for zinc, you are not going to mine zinc. So this also proves that people were aware of zinc metal. Indians were aware of zinc metal. Now they have also discovered smelting retorts. So retort is kind of a furnace. So they have discovered smelting furnaces and dam fill at Zawar. So there is a lot of slag produced when you reduce a metal oxide. So that they have discovered slag heaps around Zawar belonging to 1st century AD, 5th century AD, and it's all lying all around Zawar. These remains. Now, as I say, the entire valley of the river Tidi in Zawar is dotted with massive heaps of slag and earthen retorts, indicating a long tradition of smelting and commercial production of zinc. So this is a very important site. So in this photograph, I'm showing the mound of retorts and zinc smelting waste. I'm not sure if it is clear, but this is a mound. This is not some hill. So this is a mound of zinc smelting waste, which is still lying in Zawar. So you can just even go now and see all these things with your own eyes. So radiocarbon dates for Zawar. So I'm trying to present every kind of evidence. We have seen literary evidence. We have we have taken the praman or the proof of inference, anuman, and now these are the scientific proofs, the radiocarbon dates for Zawar. So as you can see, so all these smelting dumps, they, as you can see in this table, they belong to around 1300 to 1360. 1460, 1300, 1395. So we can be pretty sure that people at Zawar in Rajasthan were producing zinc, from the 14th century onwards. I mean, it is an undeniable proof that from 14th century onwards, zinc was produced on a commercial scale in Zawar in Rajasthan. So we can be pretty sure based on this radiocarbon dates. Now, coming to the smelting technology. So my analysis, this whole analysis, which is from the book, is based on the discoveries which we have made so far. So, if further research is carried out, we would be able to know more about, the smelting technology. But based on the limited evidence which we have, the researchers have tried to build up a picture of how this smelting operation was carried out in Zawar. So at Zawar Mala Hill, so there is one hill in Zawar, these researchers have discovered various furnaces. So what exactly was the structure of this smelting furnace at Zawar? So this furnace had two chambers, an upper chamber and a lower chamber. and this upper chamber was used for reduction, and the lower chamber was used for condensation of zinc vapors, which came out from the upper chamber. And these two chambers were separated by a perforated plate, and it has a large number of perforations. So these two chambers were divided into two, upper chamber and lower chamber, by this perforated plate. And there was this conical clay peg which was used in the lower chamber to give support. And in the upper chamber, a lot of brinjal shaped retorts. We will be taking a look what this brinjal shaped retort is. So these were made of clay, they were earthen retorts. And and this is important because all these furnaces were made from recyclable materials, clay, and it was very environment friendly technology, and also at the same time quite advanced. So this upper chamber was filled with a lot of brinjal shaped retorts in an inverted position. So this brinjal shaped retort we will take a look in shortly, but I will describe it. It was, as you have already, you might be aware from its name, that it was in the shape of a brinjal. And this bulging part of the brinjal was lying above, and the tubular stem, it went through that perforated plate into the lower chamber. Okay, so this was the retort which was used at Zawar. Now, it is always more clear if you take a look at the photographs. So, if you look at, these are the remains of the excavated furnaces. So, I can see 1, 2, 3. So, these are 3 different furnaces. If you can, see this square shaped outline. So, there are around 3 furnaces which can be seen in this picture. And this, you can see this is the perforated plate which is lying now in the ground. And let us move to, okay, so this is more clear. So
this time and just show one photograph.
The previous one?
Just a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the furnace which is having 2 chambers, something like this.
Yeah.
One for for distillation, and one for evaporation, and one for condensation.
Yes.
Okay, just I thought I had just.
Yeah, it is actually it represents it very nicely.
Okay. Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, I'll just. Okay, so is my screen visible now?
Yeah.
Okay, so as Professor Harichandra has already shown you a very nice photograph, so it makes my explanation more clear now. Okay, so this is again a picture of the furnace, and if you see in the middle, this is the perforated plate. This was the upper chamber, and this was the lower chamber. So upper chamber, as I've said, was meant for reduction, for smelting, and this lower chamber was for condensation and recovering of molten zinc metal. Okay, I'm not able to move it forward. Okay, yeah. So why am I showing this perforated plate again? Because it's really important to understand what exactly the technology was. So this perforated plate, this is the the picture of a perforated plate, and as you can see, there are 2 types of perforations or holes in this plate, the larger one and the smaller one. So these large perforations were meant for putting the tubular part of the brinjal shaped retort into the lower chamber, right? Because you need zinc in the lower chambers you need zinc to go into the lower chamber. So through that tubular part of the retort, which passed through these large perforations, the vaporized zinc moved into the lower chamber. So this was the use of these large perforations which you can see in this plate, and these smaller perforations. So there were 36 large perforations in each furnace. So you could place 36 retorts in the upper chamber corresponding to these 36 large perforations. And these were there were some many small perforations also in this plate, and these small perforations were meant for the escape of gases from the lower chamber into the upper chamber. So each of these perforations had a reason. They were not just for the sake of design. Okay, so this is the top view of the upper chamber, and all these globular things which you see, these are all the brinjal shaped retorts. So 1 2 3 4 5, the 10 15 20, so you can see there are around 20 24 25 retorts in this is the upper chamber, the top view of the upper chamber of the furnace. Okay, so this would make it more clear. So this is the cross section of the furnace at Zawar. So these ice cream bar like things which you can see, actually these are the brinjal shaped retorts. So this is the bulging portion of that retort, and these are the perforations through which these stems or tubes are passing into the lower chamber. Okay, so after the reduction in the upper chamber, the zinc vapors passed into the lower chamber, and there were some. It is not very clear based on our current discoveries how this condensation was done by the metallurgists, but somehow they condensed it, and this lower portion had taps through which you can take out the molten zinc, and this thing which you can see is the peg, a conical peg which was used for the support of this this plate and all the retorts. And the important thing is that all these things were made from clay. So it was a very environmental friendly technique, but also at the same time theoretically very advanced. So zinc ore preparation. So we have taken a look at the furnaces which were used, but before putting the ore into a furnace, we have to do the dressing for the ore, which I have named as ore preparation for the sake of simplicity. So what was the zinc ore preparation at Zawar? So most of these processes are still used. Breaking into smaller pieces, crushing the alloy, and then separating lead ore, lead sulfide from zinc sulfide, and then after that, this ore was mixed with organic material, cow dung, and rolled into tiny balls. So this is one of the ways which we can infer from the evidences, the actual archaeological evidences. But based on the text, we also have textual evidence for as to how the ore was prepared before putting into the furnace. So there is a text called Ras Ratna Samuchay, written by Vagbhat, belonging to the 13th century. And it says that calamine. So calamine is zinc carbonate. It is an ore of zinc, important ore. So it is powdered with lark, treacle, white mustard, myrobalan, natron, borax, and mixed. And the mixture is boiled with milk and clarified butter and made into balls. These are to be enclosed in a crucible and strongly heated, and the contents are then poured on a slab of stone. The essence of calamine, which is the zinc of beautiful appearance, is to be used. So this is just an excerpt from that text. But the important point to note here is that these ancient metallurgists at Zawar, they were mixing stuffs like milk, clarified butter, and there is another text which mentions that they used to mix harad and many other organic items in this zinc ore. So it is not clear why these organic ingredients were added to the charge. By charge, I mean the zinc ore and whatever is used to prepare the zinc ore, whatever items are used. So they are combined in a combined way. They are called to be charged. So that's a technical term. So in this charge, why were they using these organic items? This is not very clear. So this is a matter of research actually by young metallurgists, because they were not adding these stuffs, just for the sake of fun. Actually, all these organic items imparted some property to the finally produced zinc. And this is very common not only in zinc metallurgy, even in iron metallurgy you will find these kind of things. So there was no clear distinction between what we today call inorganic chemistry and organic chemistry. So inorganic chemistry is a separate domain and organic chemistry is a separate domain. So there was no such clear cut distinction in ancient India, and even for the extraction of metals you used such organic items very excessively, and it is quite probable that they imparted certain specific properties to the zinc metal. So it was not just something which they did for the sake of fun. It was really important. Okay, so the reduction of zinc ore. So we have already seen the smelting furnaces. We have seen how the ore was prepared. Now this prepared ore balls were placed in the retorts, the brinjal shaped retorts, after drying along with charcoal. As I already said, there were 36 retorts in each furnace, and they were heated for 3 to 6 hours, and this was the final reduction process which was used at Zawar, and this process is also still in use. This principle is still used, although electrolytic processes have taken over, but all the pyrometallurgical techniques in the modern metallurgy for zinc extraction, they use this process. So the final the reducing agent was carbon monoxide, which was produced through the combustion of charcoal, and this reduced this gave finally zinc in gaseous form along with carbon dioxide. So this was the process of smelting reduction. Now the temperature conditions in retorts. Now it is not as if these people just placed the retort and just heated it and they finally got the zinc metal. It was not something so simple, because you have to maintain a particular temperature profile in the furnace. Why is it important? So the temperature of the retorts, it cannot exceed 1100 degrees Celsius, because as we have already seen, these retorts were made from clay. They were earthen retorts. So if temperature exceeds too much, then what will happen? These retorts will collapse. So the temperature in the upper chamber had to be around 1100 degrees Celsius. It could not exceed, go to 1300, 1400. They had to maintain that temperature. Then in the tubular part of the retort, they had to maintain a temperature which was no less than 432 degrees Celsius, which is the melting point of zinc. Why? Because if zinc solidifies in that tubular portion, then it will block the passage of zinc vapors into the lower chamber, and we will not be able to get any zinc vapor or finally zinc. So this was important. And this particular, how this temperature profile was maintained, it is not very clear. But this whole furnace had a particular temperature profile which facilitated the production and recovery of zinc. And from the archaeological evidence, from the degree of vitrification of the retorts, as these retorts were made of clay, they vitrified, and we can infer from the degree of vitrification that the temperatures in the retort, in the brinjal shaped retorts, were around were between 1050 to 1150 degrees Celsius range. So it is really very remarkable that they were able to maintain that particular temperature profile within the furnace. Okay, now just to show how these brinjal shaped retorts were. So these retorts were made of two parts. Now you can see this is the upper part and the lower part, and after filling the charge, after filling the ore, charcoal and various other organic items used for reduction, these two parts were joined together. And then this retort was placed in the upper chamber, and these tubes, this tube, it passed through the perforations, the large perforations, into the lower chamber. So this was the brinjal shaped retort. And it is very important because as we will later see, this was exactly how the Europeans produced zinc. Now this is just a photograph of the tubular part of the brinjal shaped retort discovered at Zawar, and this is the cross section of the retort. One important thing to note in this cross-section diagram, you can see in the center there is this stick in the middle of this retort. Now this wooden stick was used so that the charge did not fall into the lower part of the furnace, in the lower chamber of the furnace. So this stick prevented the falling of the charge into the lower part, and it also somehow facilitated the passage of zinc vapors into the lower chamber. Some kind of streamlining it did. We are not aware exactly what kind of flow mechanism was there, but it also facilitated the passage of zinc vapors into the lower part of the lower chamber of the furnace. Okay, so this brinjal shaped retort which we are talking about, so this brinjal shaped is something which we have coined in the English language, but this was also known as Vrittank Musha in Sanskrit. So Vrittank means a brinjal and Musha means a furnace. So Vrittank Musha is mentioned actually in Rasratna Samuche. So we have literary evidence as well as archaeological evidence. So it is quite undeniable. I mean, no one can challenge the evidences which we have. So
Yes.
Yeah, should I move, Professor?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were saying something. Anyway, so
No. There was some disturbance.
Okay, so this Vrittank Musha, this is explained in the 10th chapter of this text, Rasratna Samuche. So we have literary evidence also, and it was quite popular. It is not this text Rasratna Samuche. In many other Rasa Shastra texts, and there are many. I mean, I would recommend that people should do research as to what is mentioned in these texts. There are many texts, Rasa Tantram, Rasa Ratna Hridayam, and there are many. So these Rasa Shastra texts, they also mention about techniques for ore preparation and about furnaces, about distillation techniques. So it would be really very interesting for young metallurgists as well as our professors to go through these texts, because they can help us think in a different way, and it can help in our in our research in the domain of zinc smelting and distillation. So recovery and collection of zinc. So as we have already seen, zinc was collected in the lower portion of the in the lower chamber of the furnace, and so it is not very clear how exactly. We don't have archaeological evidence, but as far as this text is concerned, Rasratna Samuche, it also mentions how are you going to collect the the zinc, the pure zinc metal in its molten form. So since we do not have any archaeological evidence based on this text, we can say with some reasonableness that these small pot or saucer filled with water were used for the collection of zinc. So all this technology was very environment friendly. So that is also an important thing. And these pots and saucers are yet to be discovered at Zawar. So these, if we carry out further excavations, we might even come to know how these condensation. This condensation method, what was exactly the condensation method in the lower chamber. But as far as current archaeological evidence is concerned, we haven't discovered these pots and saucers which are being talked in this text called Rasratna Samuche. Now the purity of zinc obtained was around 98% to 99%, and this was indeed an ingenious method for downward distillation of zinc. So as we have already seen, zinc vapors, they were smelted in the upper part and they condensed in the lower part. So it was a downward distillation process. So distillation happened from upward towards the downward part. So there are many other processes these days, in the modern times, like the horizontal distillation process, upward distillation process. But the technology used at Zawar was the downward distillation process. And this will be important, as we will see shortly. Now the quantitative estimates. Now it was not some household thing which people. It was not as if people in their house were producing zinc. It was an industrial scale production. So Zawar was something like we have Jamshedpur in the present times. So it was like the Jamshedpur for zinc production in ancient times. So it was a very important center for zinc production, and it provided for the needs of the rest of the world, the zinc needs of rest of the world. So the remains of smelting operation are spread over an area of 1 square kilometer, and this is only on the basis of current archaeological evidence. If we make further excavations, this area could be around 2, 3, who knows? I mean, we need to do more research. And so the total weight of the debris of slag debris and retort debris, it is around 600,000 tons. So it is a huge debris which we have at Zawar. And so this researcher Craddock, he has pointed out that each furnace produced around 25 to 30 kg of zinc in one round of smelting. So they suggest that 32,000 tons of metallic zinc may have been produced between 1400 CE to 1800 CE. So, and the quantity of production could be much higher if it is calculated from 12th century onwards. And we are pretty sure that this production could have been possible even in the first millennium. So this quantity could be much higher. And this is the archaeological evidence, and we have textual evidence also. As I've already said that this town Zawar was a part of the Mewar kingdom, and it was one of the main sources of revenue for the Mewar kingdom between 14th and 19th century. So this Panchole Shivkaran Lal Chandri Bahi, some text in Rajasthani belonging to the reign of Maharana Raj Singh, it records that the revenue earned in a year from Zawar was around rupees 18 lakhs. So it's a very big amount. This is a text from 1636. So the revenue was around 18 lakhs. And similarly, there are other texts also. Nansiri, Khyat, it says that the daily income was around 400 to 500 rupees. So, and the important point is that Zawar, as if someone had noticed in that picture which I showed of Zawar, so it's a dry area. There is no agricultural surplus in that area. So most of this revenue was from zinc production. It was not from agriculture. So Zawar was an important center of zinc production. It's very clear from all these evidences. Now the importance of Zawar. So it's not even the American Society of Metals has acknowledged that Zawar is a historical landmark, and what they have placed a signboard, and it's very worthwhile to read what they have said about Zawar. So they say that at this site are preserved the zinc retort distillation furnaces and remnants of related operations. The technical sophistication and application of scientific principles are unparalleled elsewhere in the medieval period, and it could be ancient period also. The element of standardization and mass production foreshadow the Industrial Revolution. Again, a very important statement. This is the earliest example of high temperature distillation operations, and earliest and the only example. Ruins of exotically carved temples and other village artifacts attest to the success of this metallurgical operation. So this was a very prosperous town. There are a lot of temples ancient temples in this town. So based on the revenue generated by this town, it became a very prosperous town in the ancient and medieval times. The operation first supplied zinc for brass making used for fine instrument making in Europe, a forerunner of the Industrial Revolution. So these instruments which Europeans may be using brass for making their instruments. So most of the zinc came from Zawar. Now another important question is that who was the first to produce zinc, India or China? So this is an important question. Now some researchers, some authors say that it was China, and some say that it was India. But based on the evidences, we can very conclusively say that it was India, which was the pioneer in zinc production, in the commercial production of zinc. And even the Chinese technical encyclopedias, they had something called technical encyclopedias in the 15th and 16th century. So they are unaware about zinc metal and its production. So as we have already seen that zinc production was pretty much common in India as back as the 13th century, 13th, 14th century. But in China, people were unaware of zinc as far back as 15th, 16th century. So it is quite probable, but how maybe the Chinese learned the technique through Buddhist monks who went there in the 12th, 13th century during Islamic invasions, or maybe they knew about it through the Portuguese. So this is something which needs further research. But of course, I would like to point out that the method which Chinese developed in their country was a different one, although it could be an adaptation of the Indian method, but it was a different method which China developed later on in the 16th century.
Sir, we'll conclude.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Please, because we have one more talk.
I'll just take 2-3 slides and we'll conclude. Okay. Yeah. So now the transmission of zinc technology now to the West. So zinc, as we have already seen, was unknown to the West up to the 18th century, and it was William Champion who first produced zinc at Bristol in England. And this is the furnace which was used by this William Champion at Bristol. So you can clearly see there are a lot of similarities. Downward distillation process. He has some brinjal shaped retort. Then there is condensation in the lower chamber, and even the charge which he used for zinc production. The ingredients which he used were exactly the same as that used at Zawar. So it is quite it's very reasonable to conclude that this method was copied. And there is also textual evidence that Britishers did go to India to learn about zinc production. So it is quite very much a big possibility that William Champion learned the Indian method. So now the decline of zinc production. So when the Europeans learned about zinc production, then they started dumping their metal. When industrial revolution began in England, they started dumping cheap zinc metal into the Indian market, and finally the zinc production at Zawar declined because of that. This is the story with other Indian industries also. Same thing happened with zinc. So I would like to conclude, as we are short of time, we can carry on. But so this zinc production is, at Zawar is a very glorious chapter in India's past, and it's a very important contribution to the world of science. And it was the basis of various modern chemical and extractive industries. And so we should be aware of this thing. And I would recommend that we can read about the Rasa Shastra text, and it can also help us in our future research. So with that, I conclude, and thank you all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for explaining about the challenge of zinc metallurgy. It is really it's a very challenging technology by itself. That is why zinc metallurgy is discussed across the globe for basically for its challenges. And India was. It is pleasing to note that India was the pioneers in zinc metallurgy. Sir, you yourself and Madam Shalini has given us an opportunity to listen to an organization which is doing a lot of work in the area of traditional Indian sciences and technologies. And just thought I want to tell you one thing. Perhaps milk and other products, organic products, were used in the purification process, especially when it comes to using of zinc for internal application in medicinal nanoparticle preparation. Perhaps milk and other organic compounds would be used for making it biocompatible. This could be one of the reasons.
Yeah, of course.
So, sir, I have also you have mentioned a number of texts about Shastra, at least a few of them. In my tomorrow's talk, I'll be talking more about Shastra texts and our experiments in MS Ramaiah Institute of Technology pertaining to Rasa Shastra.
Oh,
And there is a lot of prospects on that. So we can come back tomorrow, and probably you can also give some inputs while I talk tomorrow. And thank you very much, sir. Thank you, madam, and thank you, Anurag, sir. Now we have one more session because our college is going to close, and we have to finish one more session. That is why I had to interrupt till now. I did not interrupt anybody,
We also
actually.
did not
no, it's okay. I
intend
was
to go so long.
Yeah, yeah. I was saying that it was so
not enough
challenging.
time actually.
Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to Hemanth, uh, who will be talking about a very important, a miraculous treatise on India mathematics in Siribhuvalaya. It is an array of numbers, which is not just numbers but beyond numbers. So, firstly, let me introduce to you. Uh, just a minute, and yeah, let me introduce to you the speaker of today, who will be basically talking on this Sri Bhuvalaya. Uh, he is Hemant Kumar ji, currently working in Intel India. Intel India, basically from Chikmagaluru district of Karnataka, and he has learned out of interest several um, several things beyond his academic interest, that is pertaining to Vedic physics, Vedic mathematics, Ayurveda studies. He has also studied Ayurveda from Brahmarshi K.S. Nityananda Swamiji, then from Veda Vijnana Mandira, Chikmagaluru. Although he has done all these studies, he is basically an M.Tech. M.Tech in IT from NITK Surathkal, and before which he has done BE in Computer Science and Engineering from AIT Chikmagaluru. From AIT Chikmagaluru. Then he has also served as a faculty at NMAIT Nitte. He has also served in Blue Star Infotech and Microtech Computers, Surathkal, and he was a technical lead in IntelliSwift Software India Private Limited, Bangalore. He is presently the workload development engineer in AI and vision products. So, and he's also he has technical expertise in computer vision, computer graphics, heterogeneous parallel computing, and he has a lot of passion towards study of various Indian literature, and especially the Sri Bhuvalaya. So Sri Bhuvalaya being a basic tech, very, as I told you, it is an array of numbers, and perhaps artificial intelligence, people who are working in this area of artificial intelligence can make a lot of, much more sense out of this, because they would have a lot of computerized techniques to find out what people said at that time, which was known very well at that time, but it today there is a lost knowledge. So there is a missing link. So that link can be easily fulfilled by people expert with computer expertise, and that is what Hemanth is exactly doing. Now I request Hemanth to take over the session.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Welcome. Yeah, you're audible.
So is presentation visible, sir?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for providing an opportunity to present whatever it's like my hobby, and also my work during my academia as a faculty work with some students for 2 years on this Siribhuvalaya. It's from my own interest. I have been working in the area of Siribhuvalaya more than around maybe 18 years from my college days. Without going into introduction more, I have very less time. So quickly, let me jump into the topic. So usually I start with this question. If you can see anything in this particular matrix, it's a 27 by 27 matrix. Let me just visualize that. It looks like just a collection of numbers, but something else is hidden in this. So a quick observation, if it was an interactive session, so would be like, what are the things you can observe quickly in that? Some people say like the presence of a number of ones, more number of ones here, and also 2 is there in many places, and also you can see some big numbers like 60, 61. Okay, something is there here. So a text is hidden behind these numbers. So the text highlighted here is the output of the matrix which we saw just now. It reads like this: Ashtamaha Pratiharya Vaibhavadinda Ashtagunangalon Vandam Srishtige Mangala Paryaya Dinitta Ashtamajinageragwenu Tavanaya Kolu Pustaka Pinchapatraya Avatarada Kamandalada. It goes like that. So the beauty of this particular text is, if you go on joining the first letters of the poems originating from these matrices, so you are going to get another poem, which may be in different language. So if you can see the letters highlighted in between the square brackets, so A, T, T, A, V, I. So it is like Attaviha Kamma. So it's a Prakrit language text. So similarly, if you can see the so the text highlighted in between the flower brackets. So go on joining them. So it's like Okaram Bindu Sanyuktam Nityam Dhyanti Yoginaha. So that's the famous text. And the row wise, when you see like this, it's generating the text in Kannada. So with this quick introduction, that means this is some matrix which is going to generate the poems in different languages. That's the quick observation which we can make. So let's go to the history where it started. It goes billions of years ago, when it's a Jain literature basically. And at that time, there was no distinction like Jainism and Hinduism. There was no such distinction everywhere. Everybody was one. So it's called a humanism, like Manavatavada is the one which is proposed in India. So Adinatha, for his sons and daughters, Brahmi Sundari, Bharata and Bahubali, taught an ultimate knowledge, so which was codified or which was taken into the generation by generation, and even the Tirthankaras in Jainism, which they praise as the highest form. So it came till around 3,500 years ago to Kumudendu Muni. So his existence we can trace from the available literature, Siribhuvalaya. His presence is there from around 3,500 years to 1,200 years before, because we see these are all the sages who can extend their life and lead a long lifespan. So he was, we can consider him as like a vice chancellor of the university, where he had 1,500 students in the present Nandi Hills in Bengaluru. So there he used to ask the students to prepare the matrices, which are called as chakras, 27 by 27 matrices, which will hold the information. It's like an encyclopedia. He wanted to prepare an encyclopedia of present, past, and future. So it's called as Trikala, as well as the three worlds, Triloka. So that's why it is noted somewhere as Trikala Bhuvalaya and Triloka Bhuvalaya. So what is the content or the matter of this Siribhuvalaya? So the ancient physics, mathematics, the chemistry, literature, history. So since it's an encyclopedia, he tried to include all the texts which were available at that time in terms of mathematical encodings. So with this brief introduction, we will come from that 1500 BC to now 1950s, where the freedom fighter Kalamangalam Srikantaya is pioneer in decoding certain matrices as well as the original text from the Siribhuvalaya, which was possessed by the family lineage of Dharanendra Pandit, and it came to Yellappa Shastri, and also the famous Kannada typewriting pioneer Anant Subbaraya was also exploring this. After which, through Anant Subbaraya, it came to Siddharthi Hasan, who is an agriculturist, and he worked on Siribhuvalaya for 30 years and published around 11 books covering more than 3,500 pages of Kannada literature from Siribhuvalaya. And this is backed up by Professor G. Venkatasubbaya, who is an eminent Kannada literate, 106 years old now. He is now also enthusiastic to work on Siribhuvalaya. So Siddharthi ji and Professor Venkatasubbaya and my guru Nityananda from Veda Vijnana Mandira. So they motivate me to learn this and take it forward. So this literature is when we see a flashlight on this, so it's called as Sarva Bhashamayi Siribhuvalaya. It's a Kannada poetry in numerals, authored by the ancient poet of Kannada language Kumudendu Muni, has the rare honor of being called the 10th wonder of the world. This is the only poetry in numerals in the entire world, and it has to be considered as an encyclopedia of the world. The pre-titles are something like Sarva Bhashamayi, inclusive of all languages, Sarva Shastramayi, inclusive of all scriptures, and Sarva Jnanamayi, inclusive of all knowledge, explain the vastness and depth of this great ancient work. This poetry has been written using Kannada numbers from 1 to 64 per formula, as per certain formula. These numbers represent the 64 alphabets which are in the Sarva Bhashamayi Bhasha Kannada language. That is starting from to H. That is 60 alphabets plus Pah. So they are called as Ayogavaha. So K is it's a sign that represents the letter maybe similar to Z in English, and F is the sign that represents the English letter F. It's near to that. On each page of this great poetry, there is a big square-like diagram. Each square has been divided into 729 small squares by having 27 vertical lines and 27 horizontal lines. The page containing this big square is called chakra, or the circle. The numbers in the circles have to be read by applying the corresponding alphabet in the Kannada in different formats, which are known as bandhas, such as Shredi, Sarpa, Jodi Nagara, Hamsa, Mayura, etc., which are around 40 in number. This will reveal the literature of many other languages. The different languages that come out of this exercise are 718. Presently, this has been deciphered in the Shredi format. It is a literature that's concealed in a column, and the Kannada literature in the Sangatya style, a Kannada meter, has been identified. If the entire poetry is deciphered like this, the total number of Kannada meter style, that's a Sangatya, padyas which are coming out of this is around 6 lakhs. So which exceeds even the Mahabharata. So when we read this with suitable classification as instructed, we get definite nature of the literature pertaining to the harmony and the cohesion of 363 religions in 718 languages. Arithmetics, so space voyage, Ayurveda, physics, chemistry, biology, musicology, atomic science, computer technology, Vedic literature, ancient literature such as Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all other topics. So Siribhuvalaya contains about 16,000 pages, the huge volume that has been divided into 9 khandas or units. Each unit has several chapters. The first unit, which is in the nature of preamble to the entire volume, contains 59 chapters. And its transformation in letter form was ready in 1952 itself. Of this, only 33 chapters were printed and the rest remained in the manuscript form. Now, the original literature and the hidden literature from the 34th to 59th chapters have been published. The total volume of original Kannada verses in Siribhuvalaya is 6 lakh. The hidden literature of various other languages arising from these words extends to 100,000 lakh crore verses. That is, you can see 10 power 17 verses or shlokas originating from this. So this rare and wonderful ancient work was unknown not only at the international and national literary circles, but even in the Kannada literary field itself. After the publication of its first version in the letter form about 60 years before, very recently about 9 books giving a brief introduction about this great piece of literature have been published in Kannada. The structure and format of this work, encompassing in it the essence of all the great literary works of the world, is indeed very complex and intricate. This poetic style is indeed very new and strange to the Kannada literary field. Naturally, it is hard to understand it properly. For these reasons, this great piece of literature did not gain much publicity. Siribhuvalaya Siddharthi has written about 7 introductory books on Siribhuvalaya in Kannada. This scholarly and precious preface written in detail by one of the greats of contemporary Kannada literature field, Professor Jeevan Subbaya, to this introductory book. So I feel that those who involve themselves in selfless service in the literary field, this is the highest recognition one can aspire for. So a brief history about the Sarva Bhashamayi Bhasha Siribhuvalaya of Adikavi Kumudendu Muni. The Jains hold the 24 Tirthankaras in high esteem and reverence. Rishabhadeva was the first Tirthankara among them. After ruling the entire world for a long time, he became averse to worldly attachments. Before proceeding to the forest for penance, that's Vanaprastha, he equally divided his worldly assets to his 4 children. His eldest son Bharata begot the entire kingdom. His second son Bahubali got Paudanapura. His sister Brahmi got 64 alphabets of Kannada language beginning with A. The youngest daughter Sundari gets the numbers from 1 to 9 along with 0. So there, the 0 is cut, and when it placed in a particular position, in particular way orientation, so it will generate the numerals of Kannada from 1 to 9. The Kannada numbers are its letters are numbers. So this is the essence of the supreme knowledge that's called as Kevala Jnana. It's a knowledge of liberation attained by Adi Tirthankara Rishabhadeva. This is the main thirst of this work. These letters and numbers are similar to each other, and with the help of this, it is possible to know the entire knowledge pertaining to the world and thereby attain salvation in life. Rishabhadeva taught this secret to his junior daughter Sundari. This cosmic knowledge or wisdom flowed from the gods to Rishabhadeva, who in turn passed it to the Gommata Deva, known as Adi Manmata, who neatly incorporated them in the coded numerical form. He later preached it to his elder brother Bharata. Through Ganadharas, this divine knowledge was passed on to the next Tirthankara Ajita. So like this, it flowered to the next 21 Tirthankaras in the form of preaching or the Upadesha from one to another. The Jain ancient literature mentions that the period between some of these Tirthankaras was over 3,000 years. The living span of the ancient Tirthankaras itself was more than lakhs of years. Nemi was the 22nd Tirthankara. The cosmic knowledge bestowed from the heaven was taught to Sri Krishna of Dwaraka by Nemi. This was presented by Vyasa Maharshi in the form of Bhagavad Gita containing 162 shlokas titled 162 plus 1. So, so one is the Suchi shloka. It is titled original work of Mahabharata. It is Jayakhyana. So Siribhuvalaya contains the Jayakhyana. So Sri Krishna preached this to Arjuna, who was about to retreat from the warfield. The Siddhartha of Kapilavastu was a disciple of Parshvanatha, the 22nd, third Tirthankara. He later became Buddha and founded Buddhism. So Mahavira, the 24th Tirthankara, passed on this cosmic wisdom to Ganadhara Gautama. Gautama incorporated this in the work known as Purve Kavya. This was also known as Mangala Prabhuta and Karana Sutra. Gautama preached this wealth of divine knowledge to a king as known as Shrenika. After the 10 saints in around 50 BC maybe, one Prabhavasena who wrote the Mangala Pahuda with focus on the Kannada, Sanskrit and Prakrit languages. The same saints, they continued, and Bhutabali presented this divine knowledge in a work titled Bhuvalaya. In the continued tradition, Veerasenacharya wrote a commentary on this divine knowledge, which was in the form of Shatkhandagama. These later became popular as Davala. Jinasena, the disciple of Veerasena, compiled the ancient Mahapurana around 800 AD maybe, exactly 1,001.5 years after the attainment of salvation of Mahavira, the 24th Tirthankara. Kumadendu Muni wrote this Sarvabhasha Mayi Bhasha Siribhuvalaya in Kannada novels. But the studies and the writing started even before that. That's what I observed, my personal observation. This divine knowledge was earlier in two forms known as Nutana and Praktana. Kumadendu Muni wrote this Kannada numeric poetry on the palm leaves. He has codified this in the form of Kannada numerics in 9 number combinations and presented it as a Kannada numeric poetry. Thus, an unprecedented great piece of poetry in Kannada numerics came to the world. Later, Kumadendu Muni preached this to Gangarasa Saigutta Sivamara, and then to Amoghavarsha, the emperor of Rashtrakuta. It's Nrupatunga. Mallika Bay, the wife of one Sena, who was the commander of the army, copied this work on a buff paper and presented to her guru, it's Maghanandi. One such copy has come down from generation to generation and has been preserved in the family of Shatavadani Dharanendra Pandit, a famous Ayurvedic doctor in Dottabalai village, along with the railway track of Bengaluru and Tumkur. It is a historical fact that he used to read this in the numeric language, and his friend Chanda Pandit used to give commentaries. Around 1913 AD, Dharanendra Pandit passed away. Later, this extraordinary ancient numeric poetry came to the possession of one Sri Yellappa Shastri, who was an Ayurvedic medicine sales representative. He preserved it in his private library, but coming across this heap of numeric poetry, that is codified language, very hard to decipher, Pandit Yellappa Shastri was in fact disillusioned. One Karlamangalam Srikantaya was a great follower of Gandhiji. Influenced by the struggle for freedom movement, he settled down in Bangalore around 1927. He later became a scholar in many languages. He came across this great ancient work and firmly resolved to decipher it. By his continued efforts, he was able to match each alphabet with the numbers found in the Siribhuvalaya text. By this method, he succeeded in sorting out this Kannada numeric poetry in the form of simple Kannada language, having a cognate and meaningful literature. With the sincere and foresighted efforts of Maharishi Devarata of Gokarna, a close associate of Kalamangalam Srikantaya, the intervention of this great work was brought to the notice of then President of India, late Dr. Rajendra Prasad. This rare work of literature was preserved in the Government of India Archives Department in microfilm format. The first part of this was printed in Kannada language through the Sarvartha Siddhi Sangha, Bangalore, and released at the Kannada Sahitya Parishad in 1953 in the form of a book. It carried the name Yellappa Shastri as researcher and Kalamangalam Srikantaya as editor. Its second part was published in 1955. These notable developments pertaining to the Siribhuvalaya have unfortunately not been properly appreciated in the Kannada literary field till now. In fact, it is a case of gross negligence. Dr. S. Srikanta Shastri, who is a famous professor of Indian history, has lauded Kalamangalam Srikantaya's unmatched brilliance in no uncertain terms. Mrs. Elizabeth Benner of Hungary, Mr. Harald of USA, Sirigatan of Japan, and other foreign scholars have described this ancient Kannada poetry in numerics, Sarva Bhasha Mayi Bhasha Siribhuvalaya, as the 10th wonder of the world. It is a universal fact that Adi Shankaracharya was a most prominent person to propagate the theory of Advaita. About 100 years later, it was Kumudendu Muni who equally advocated and propagated the theory of Advaita, but yet he remains a stranger to the world even now. Both Shankaracharya and Kumudendu Muni had their own unique and typical ways of spreading this universal truth. Kumudendu Muni was popularly known as Yalava Bhurisi. If you see Siribhuvalaya, check the reverse of this string, it is Yalava Bhurisi. And by his unmatched brilliance, wrote this second to none, Siribhuvalaya. Even today, many educated and enlightened classes do not know that such a precious piece of divine and comprehensive literature in Kannada exists. Even among those who know, the number of persons who are aware of the vastness and variety of subjects included in this text is very rare. What does Siribhuvalaya contains? Answer to this question is anything and everything. It holds the entire gamut of issues pertaining to this material world, as also that of the world beyond. Issues relevant to this material world, as also issues in the form of preachings for emancipation of the self in diverse ways, are extensively dealt in here. It is, in fact, a storehouse of complete knowledge. Modern science tells that water is made up of two components, hydrogen and oxygen. So many people consider this as an invention of modern science. However, the Kannada version of this science formula can be found in Siribhuvalaya of Kumudendu Muni. Not only that, we come across several facts relating to atomic science also. Anuvu neerolageshtu, anala vayugaleshtu, nenedu sudada anuveshtu. That's what is the quantity of atoms in water. This explains that the water is made up of 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen. Again, Veda has a different view, like it says, it gives the formula as Narayana, 4 components. I think we have to explore more to get one more component to understand water properly. How many varieties of fire are there? This is one more question. How many types of winds are there? How many atoms are there in which are indestructible in water or fire? Thus goes the explanation in Siribhuvalaya, giving the details of the atomic science. The technology of satellite launching and fixing it in a predetermined orbit appears to be of modern invention, but Kumudendu Muni describes in Siribhuvalaya as Tanuvanu Akashake Hari Nilisva Ghana Vaimanika Kavya. That is, this is a great aerospace poetry which flies a man to space and stations him there, which suggestively throws light on space technology. Again, the computers are believed to be the invention of modern science. Siribhuvalaya mentions Jodi Yankada Kutadanga, Yaveya Kalina Kshetra Dalateyol Adagisihe Anantavanu, which makes it clear that the technology, that binary system, was known to our ancestors about 1200 years before itself. Siribhuvalaya also gives information about radio, telecommunication, television, mobile technology, etc., defying the notion that they are modern-day inventions. However, such a great piece of work remained in dark for over 60 years due to the efforts of Pustaka Shakti Prakashan of Bangalore during the last decade after 2000. A team of scholars headed by Dr. T.V. Venkatachala Shastri revised the 1953 edition of this work in their own perspective and published the incomplete version. However, the details therein have created much more confusion. The original literature and its hidden literature contained in chapters 34 to 59 of the first canto, that's Khanda, of Siribhuvalaya have been published under the title Siribhuvalaya Sagara Ratna Manjusha 1 and 2. These details provide a bird's eye view of the origin, expansion, and history of Siribhuvalaya. The introductory books of many great Indian poets and their works has found a place at the international level. Unfortunately, Siribhuvalaya, a wonderful ancient work of poetry in numerals, was unknown to Kannadigas itself. It was therefore unthinkable to find a way to introduce this at the international level. The work of giving a proper introduction of this rare piece of work is really difficult. I had not even thought of giving expression to these feelings in English language. So Sri Kavi Suresh of Shumoga, who has gladly agreed to take up this translation work. So this translated version will definitely help the Siribhuvalaya. That's 10th wonder of the world. It's the name of the book. So to find introduction and recognition at the national and international level, I'm grateful to him for this effort. Also grateful to the people, a lot of people who are working in the area of Siribhuvalaya. So this is the chakra or the input matrix coming to the mathematical aspects of Siribhuvalaya. So, and this is the substitution table. So one is two is, this is Rasva, Dirgha and Pluta. Rasva, Dirgha and Pluta. So there are 9 basic swaras, 9 into 3, 27 are the total swaras here. And it's from 28, it starts the Vyanjanas, same as 25 Vyanjanas what we have up to Papa. And Ya to her, the Avargiya Vyanjanas, and Amma, Pah. So totally 64 alphabets are included in this particular coding table, Kumudendu coding table. So which that any number here, for example, 1 is A, so you can observe the number of A's here, because we know that according to the Indian grammar, so consonants have to be suffixed with the vowels to get a proper akshara or proper ucharana or pronunciation. So this is the bandha or the path matrix. So this will be applied to the original matrix. This particular matrix is the original matrix or the input matrix. And this is the bandha starting from 1 to, you traverse like this upwards up to 14 and come back here 15, 16, 25, 26, 27, and it collapses to 1. So we have to come down and go up like this, 28, 29, 30. So come down and go up 31, 32, so on up to 42. So it continues up to 729. So this is the path matrix by which this particular input matrix has to be read. So when you read that, so for example, when we let us try to drill down the problem into the small problem. So when you apply the bandha like this, so for us a 5 by 5 matrix, so 1 coming down 2, 3, and going up here 4, 5, and it perhaps here come down 6, 7, 8, 9. So go up here 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Go here 17. So I come here 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23, 24. Come down and go here 25. So this is the bandha. You apply this bandha to this particular 5 by 5 matrix, you are going to get the result like this. Result of applying the bandha. So applying the substitution, so that same output you got here, 28, 7, 52, 7, this one. So when you apply the corresponding letters to this from the coding table, so you're going to get the individual letters. When you join them according to the grammatical rules and according to the context, so you will get this. This is just example. Kumudendu Krita Siribhuvalaya. So output of Chakrabandha applied to the first chakra of Siribhuvalaya. This is the output Astamaha Pratiharya Vaibhavadinda. So this is the one. So from the second chapter, you are going to get a different method called as the Navamanga Bandha, which is 27 by 27 matrix. So divided it into 9 by 9, 9 matrices of 9 by 9 size. So, and each tile, when you consider it as 9 by 9, so, and there is a way to codify that. Second chapter starts with tile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that sequence. The subsequent chapters start with maybe this tile will come here and all the other tiles will shift and 9 will come here. And the next chapter, tile 1 will come here and tile 2 here, tile 3 here, tile 4 here. So that's the kind of rotation he follows. So it may be any particular rotation way. It may be a row and column top down, or else it may be in the rotation format. So we only know these 2 bandhas out of 40 bandhas. So even in the small 9 by 9 matrix, you are going to apply the chakra bandha here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, starting from 1 coming down 2, 3, 4, 5. So sample encoding here to demonstrate this to the people who are not aware of Kannada language. So just I took an input text like this. Kannada is the mother of all languages. Kumudendu Muni Siribhuvalaya is the 10th wonder of the world. higher mathematics is available in it. 718, you can see that language, literature, images out. So these kind of adjustments are there in even in the Kannada text there. So I have purposefully given this 18 spelling wrong, but pronunciation is, we can pronounce it as 18 because I want to limit the number of characters here. So you group them, all of them like this, and just grouping without the spaces and punctuations, remove the punctuations. So then substitute, for example, K is 27, A is 1, so N is 47, N is 47, A is 1, D is 40, and A is 1. So totally, so these are the sequence, this is the sequence you are going to get for the first word Kannada. So that means actually the thing is, the English alphabetical phonetics are not similar to the Indian languages. For example, K is nothing but K plus A, but we take it as in the English, we take it as K is equivalent to K. So with some minor agreements or adjustments, so if we try to put this inside the matrix, so the same text inside the matrix, it looks like this. So starting from here, in the top of the, so top of the this particular matrix, you can see there is a letter K, and in the bottom you have A here, N, N, A, D, A is the, so most,
Yeah, it goes like this.
yeah. So that's the text I have codified here. And when you try to substitute the values to this, you are going to get the next matrix. So it's just loading. Yeah. So the numerical substitution for the word Kannada. So you can see here 27, 1, 47, 47, 1, 40, and 1. So just I've taken a sample here. So now it starts, the actual work starts here. So I just demonstrated this because how the matrix was created. Initially, the text was created, the poetry was created. That's the magic, how he has created the poetry. Recently, I have found out that it is created by the special formula by commuting or taking the letters of Rig Veda. He mentions that in between. So I have some demonstration for that also. He takes the letters of Rig Veda and puts it in different positions through which you are going to get the proper Kannada text. Through that Kannada text, we are going to generate all the 717, totally 718 languages. So this is one sample. This is my created sample, my own sample. So for example, the Kannada is the most. Kannada is the most. So this is the text which I had taken and put it in the row and column wise. So you traverse this from top to bottom. There may be some gaps here in between. He uses these gaps in between. So the message I want to convey is none of the computer programming techniques work here because it's so random that if you try to program, you can get only some bits and pieces, not all the text can be extracted by computer algorithms. So there are several people who believe that it can be done by computers. It's not easy to do. If you have something which is in the pattern, it's easy, or else it becomes very, very tough. We call those kind of problems are NP hard. Even I think that this problem goes to an NP hard because we have worked on this extensively and decided that you can't apply the programming techniques to this. But just for printing and typesetting and all, you can use the computers. So this here K-A-Y-R-A R. So when you take these letters, so you get something like the K-A-Y-R-A-L-A-P. So R-A-L-A-P. So this means like it's in Uzbek language, it's like repeat. So here something like some words can be formed by this combination of red, and here in the blue you can see Nada, N-A-D-A. So here you see like T-E-N-M-E-I, Tenmei. So it's a Japanese era name. And so here RISHIL. So this is how the text moves, and also I could find my name in this. I was happy to see that, okay, it is generating my name also. So in several places it is generating my name here, and also several other names are generated here, like turd, meat, fish, eat green, like we should not use this, and go green, and or eat green. So this kind of message is also coming out. So this is how the connection. There are some 4-5 lines of text I've taken from my experience. But if you take the original text, you are going to get a series of letters like Rasashastra expert. So we can say that it's a lot of abundant information is available about the Rasashastra also. So vastness of each poem of the Siribhuvalaya is like this. At least you will get around 9 different meanings for each shloka or each poem. So it may be related to poetry, spirituality, salvation path, political reasoning, religion, logical reasoning, or mathematics, judiciary, and yoga shastra. So you can go up to 9 into 9, 81 ways of interpreting a single shloka. So that's why there is a claim that each shloka, for each letter in the Siribhuvalaya, you will get 1 lakh shlokas, or that much abundant information you can get. So with this, I think I will try to stop now because we are running out of time. So I have a blog here, vedavignana.blogspot.com. Me and Siddharthi Hassan, we are working extensively on this, and you can see some 11 books which he has published. So you can talk to him and get those books, or talk to me and get that, and start at least reading that for some time to understand. We have made 9 presentation videos in YouTube, and several articles in Kannada, and some articles in English, and also 1 or 2 in Hindi. There is a Hindi book, there is an English book, rest all or Kannada books. So you can get those books. Interested people who can't afford. So it's very low cost books. Even we are giving that free for several people who are interested to do a research on this. So looking forward for collaborative research without the boundaries of any religion. So it goes beyond the religion because it's an encyclopedia. A vast amount of abundant knowledge can be excavated from this, which will surely make India proud, and Vishwa Guru Bharatha, the dream of all of us sages, will happen true. With this, I will conclude my talk. Thank you.
Sir, it was quite amazing to see the magnitude of information that is available in everything in coded form. Perhaps those who are listening this for the first time cannot even believe such thing can happen. Such a magnitude of coding that is being embedded in matrix of 27 by 27, thousands of pages, as you have said. It's all really amazing, sir. First of all, let me ask the audience if they have any questions. Any question, they can put it in the chat box, either in YouTube or in Zoom app. I have given the links for both of them in the detailed brochure. Any of you would like to discuss also can get into Zoom app and directly discuss with Hemanth sir. So, Sir, this is really something wonderful. And any books available on decoding? Yeah, this is a relevant question. Ram Mohan is asking whether there are any books available on decoding.
So the thing is, already the first Khanda is available with us. So it is present in the National Archives, Delhi, the 1950 version. It is the chakras are available there. I went personally and saw that. So afterwards, the books which are published in 1952 was the first book published, which had 33 chapters. And afterwards, Siddharthi ji has published from 34th to 59 chapters. So in first Khanda, you have 59 chapters. So Pustaka Shakti Prakashana has published the first 20 chapters now in around 2010, I think. So there are books available even in online. You can search in my blog also. There are links. I can contact Siddharthi ji offline and get those books. There are 11 books, and now the decoding is not required because we have done the decoding, because the text was, as I told you, the text was already available from which the matrix was created. This is a very important message I want to give. There is a confusion in some books that matrix is everything. That's not true. The poetry is everything. Poetry was first prepared and it was put into matrix just because to retain the literature intact. So if you codify that in this particular way, nobody can tamper it. We know a lot of our books are misinterpreted. Right. So Kumaden Muni wanted to stop that. That's why he did that particular technique. And also second thing is the problem of scripts. So you see you take some 200 or 300 years before some manuscript will not be able to read that easily. So the scripts goes, there is a transformation in the scripts. That's why he made it as a numerical matrix. So, and also he had this poetry. So that's why poetry is already available. From the poetry, the inner poems are also retrieved. Now the thing is, you have to try to understand that and apply it to the modern science and technology. So it's ready. Everything is ready. Reckoner is available with you in our books. So you can take them and continue the research for further research.
Yeah, somebody who is very much interested in taking these things to our kids is asking whether you were able to use artificial intelligence in decoding this Siribhuvalaya matrices.
Yeah, so we did some with my interest and some data science experts also. We tried exploring that from artificial intelligence perspective, but we couldn't achieve much in that arena. Yeah, results are not promising in AI.
What are the major challenges? It's my personal question. What are the major challenges you are facing, and what is the magnitude of work that is available? Um, what kind of youngsters are you expecting for decoding this?
So the main challenge which I'm facing is non-availability of the next 8 khandas. Only around 1,000 matrices are available, 1,200 matrices are available. The next 8 khandas are very important for us. For example, this is like preamble. What we have is just a preamble. So the Loha Shastra, the full end-to-end description about the Loha Shastra will be available in the upcoming khandas. So there is a claim that some people retain that the original script. If they come forward and give it to the society, it will be much helpful for making India very proud. So that's the first challenge. And the second thing is, which you asked, like what are the prerequisites kind of for the students or youngsters to take this. The first thing is to start with the 9 videos which we have uploaded. The first prerequisite is Kannada, because everything goes in Kannada there. So at least some basic knowledge about the Kannada is required. There are people in Indore who are working on this with a great deal. They are able to do the programming and do some matrix decoding and all those stuff, but final output comes in Kannada. So through Kannada, you are going to trace the other literature in other languages. So the next level is other language experts are required. If you get the next khandas, then the next the other language experts are required.
But you are saying that it is a multilingual encyclopedia.
The basic or core text which you get, it will be in Kannada. So, and if you, for example, all the first letters when you join, it may be in Prakrit. All the 27th, around 27th letters, if you try combining them, you will get it in Sanskrit. So, like that, in the second Kanda, one chapter is available for us, in which Shukalamangalam Shikantaya has shown Kannada, Samskrita, Prakrita, Malayala, Tamil, Telugu, Magadhi, Ardha Magadhi, Shuraseni, and Apabramsha. These 10 languages he has decoded and shown one shlokas from those languages.
Okay, one last question. Ramon is asking one question. Originally, a poem has been made into a matrix, but so much varied subjects, interpretation, how is it possible?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So he says that he has used 6,000 mathematical formulas which relate to literature plus mathematics. So that's why he's able to generate. And also there is very less time. I had so many testimonials with me which can show that he has taken the letters from Rigveda, for example, Agnimi, Ile, Purohitam, Yajnasya Deva, Mritwijam, Hota, Arnatnadhatamam. So that's the first verse of Rigveda. He takes the letters of them and puts it in random positions. But we see it's like a random, but it's not random for him. He uses some certain formula which we don't know.
Okay,
So
yeah.
through that he generates this Ashtamaha Pratiharya Vaibhavadinda Ashtagunangalvandam Srishtige Mangala Paryayadinitta Ashtama Jinageraguvenu as the first sloka. So I could observe the subsequent Rigveda mantras, which the first Rigveda Sutta and second Rigveda Sutta is also available in the first chapter of Siribhuvalaya. I couldn't progress further because of my work pressure, but it's no doubt that he has used the letters of Rigveda. He proclaims that himself in several places, that he uses the letters from Rigveda and does a lot of high-end mathematics to that, and then he codifies the poem.
Okay, sir. Thank you. There are a lot of questions, but I wish the participants can interact with you. You have also given your blogspot and just put it in the YouTube also, the blogspot. 1 minute, sir.
Sure, sir. I have a separate section in my blog called a Siribhuvalaya. They can refer those articles and put their comments, and they can get in touch. Even my YouTube channel also has a lot of videos related to Siribhuvalaya. They can refer that as a starting point. All the resources are available now in web, so they can easily jump into them.
Perhaps they can put your name and search in YouTube, mentioning Siribhuvalaya.
Sure.
Okay, Hemanth, sir, thank you very much. We had given you very little time, but still we didn't stop you. Although college closed at 4:30, I took the liberty of extending this, and now it's already almost 5 o'clock. So, sir, thank you very much. I wish more youngsters who are, especially today, it's the world of computers and artificial intelligence, big data analysis, and all such new terms we have. And probably this data, what is there in the Siribhuvalaya, probably it is bigger than the big data kind of magnitude what people are thinking today. So, and bigger than that is the kind of meanings that we can take, and it is very much challenging. I wish I wish you success in all your endeavors. And I, on behalf of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Ramaiah Institute of Technology, I thank one and all. I thank once again Shalini, Anurag, and Hemanth sir for being with us and sharing their wonderful knowledge which they have gained from a number of years of experience. So thank you one and all. Thank you the participants. And tomorrow we have session, last day of this series, webinar series. Tomorrow we have, in fact, my own talk on research at MSRIT on traditional Indian sciences and technologies, which I say that there is huge prospects for people to work like Hemanth is. Perhaps Hemanth requires 100 people to assist him to finish this work early, at the earliest. Probably even that might not be sufficient. There are similar challenges in every field. Yesterday, Dr. N. Gopalakrishnan had thrown number of challenges and number of research problems in traditional Indian science and technologies. So tomorrow we'll be meeting that. And last session, the valedictory session would be at 2:30 tomorrow by again DK Hari. He is the one who had inspired us in the very first session in the inaugural session. I wish you also join. I wish you, this is open and it is open to all. It is available in the YouTube, Harichandra BP. If you just type and you can log into the channel, get into the channel and see the videos. And lastly, I request all the participants to give their valuable feedback for the participants and also for us. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.